And we are recording. All right, fantastic. Thank you guys for joining today. Today is the webinar where we are going to dive deeper into the general contractors that are leading the charge in cobotics. So we know that cobotics are extremely beneficial on the job site and are really an innovative tool and methodology when it comes to SmartLift Assist. And we wanted to hear directly from some of the national GC firms that are representing those products today in construction. The conversation today is hosted by Construction Robotics, which we are going to be diving into. The particular products we're going to be discussing today is the Mule. So a lot of you are familiar with the Mule. Those that aren't, we will be diving deeper in that today. And we do have a YouTube link at the end of this video that you guys can also re-reference and become more familiar with the different features and functionalities of the Mule. CR is a world leader in robotics and automation equipment, and we really focus on the construction industry. Today we do have Scott Peters, the president and CEO and co-founder, on the line. He will be coming back in there for Q&A questions should you have anything in particular to ask him as well. We also have from Barton Malow is Ryan Mabeck. Ryan is the president and CEO of Barton Malow. Barton Malow is a family-owned commercial contractor. They were established in 1924, and they are based out of Metro Detroit. They focus on general building and heavy industrial construction throughout North America. And the company is really widely known for complex multi-phase projects that include Soldier Field, the Rose Bowl renovations, and the University of Michigan. So, hi, Ryan.
Taylor, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you.
All right. Up next, not short of personality, is Tyler Shawcross from Clark Construction Group. He has been with them for a little over 7 years, graduated from Virginia Tech with a construction engineering and management degree in 2013. At Clark, he is currently helping to lead the Washington State Convention Center Addition project in Seattle. So we just got the scoop on that. Sounds really exciting, that particular project. Tyler, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Andy Brewer is also on the line with Huber Brewer. Andy Brewer is the president of Huber Brewer Construction Company and represents the 6th generation of Central New York's oldest continuously operating construction company. Wow. Say that 5 times fast, right? Andy has displayed an early interest in the family business throughout his adolescence and immersed himself in the on-site construction environment at every opportunity. He did graduate from Emory University in 2000 and remained in Atlanta for 2 years, working for a real estate developer before returning to Syracuse in 2002. And since then, he clearly has done well, as he is now the president of Huber Brewer. So Andy, thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And last but absolutely not least is Timothy Johnson with Skanska. He is the general manager overseeing Skanska's Portland office, has over 26 years of experience in the construction industry, and a diverse portfolio of project experience with healthcare, high-tech, K-12, office buildings, higher education, data centers, and retail projects, focused on people and team development to help people and project teams achieve their goals through inclusion and innovation. So I can't wait to hear what your perspective is on the Mule as well, Tim. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Taylor.
Yes.
Happy to be here.
Fantastic. So, you know, what you guys are all really on the line today is to discuss cobotics and what the general contractors around the country are doing to really support cobotics with leveraging the Mule, one of Construction Robotics products. So let's go ahead and kick it off with you, Tim, since we left off with you. You know, being familiar with the Mule, obviously, and have using it on sites, you know, what would you say is the biggest benefit of the Mule on site? So I'll toss that to you, Tim, and then we can head to Tyler with the same question. Biggest benefit of the Mule for you?
Yeah, I think that's easy right now because, you know, in Oregon and a lot of other states, the social distancing rule of 6 feet drove us to go find innovative ideas, which we were placed in large block at the time, and that operation shut down. So we started seeking out options, and you can't put 2 masons next to each other. So what were the options? So that drove us to looking at the mules, and it's actually turned out to be more productive and safer as well. But really, it was COVID and just pushing the industry. So.
And if I remember correctly, when we first spoke, you even mentioned without the mule, the job would have had to come to a halt.
Yes, correct. Yeah, we were at a halt till we got the mules on site, just because you can't lift that large block with 2 people and stay 6 feet away.
Right.
So,
Tyler, what about for Clark in terms of the benefits of the mule? What was really the trigger on that and making sure that it was leveraged on your job sites?
Yeah, so we used the mule for the first time in Chicago on our barracks job, the P714, which is the first job where we used the 32-inch block. This innovative technology was brought to us by Jimmy Z, who is our masonry subcontractor, which we wholeheartedly support here at Clark. But I think the biggest benefit that we saw, number one is safety, right? We see this as a great innovation to not only prevent incidents on the job on a daily basis, but prevent the long-term injuries with, the masons that we employ on all of our projects. So I'd say the number one benefit is certainly safety. I think we had about 16,000 square foot of stone that we laid on that job, precast stone, and we saw a reduction in manpower required to place that stone from 2 masons down to 1 mason. So from a productivity perspective, I know we, alongside Jimmy Z, saw benefits there as well. So kind of twofold.
Yeah. Andy or Ryan, do you guys want to buzz in there? I can toss another question out for us. Did they cover what you guys would consider the main benefits, or is there something else that you would want to add to that particular inquiry?
Well, I think even even beyond masonry, I think the mule is really just in its infancy. I think in terms of opportunity, I think the ability to rethink sizes of materials, just the logistics of how certain materials are maneuvered throughout the project. I think as we get more familiar with with the potential applications, as well as different attachment options are considered and evaluated. I think that assisted lift is just really presents a tremendous amount of additional opportunity in the years ahead. So it can really have implications in terms of just how we rethink design of various aspects of what goes into buildings as well, which is really exciting.
Andy, anything to add?
Oh, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. So with that being said, Ryan, I'd like to kind of buzz in there because that made me think of, when it comes to the mule, we're constantly iterating, specifically on the attachment side. And as you mentioned, how do you create the versatility, right? And this year, specifically in 2020, the mule has really morphed into becoming a tool for all trades, right? We're in refractory, we can, pick up the concrete form panels, we can do sheet goods, we're moving into potentially, the conduit space, solar panel, or the solar space, et cetera. Curious to see, in general, what tech solutions are you seeking, right, as a larger general contracting firm based on today's job site challenges?
Yeah, I think continuing that theme of experimentation in terms of just different potential uses. I think we're working with you on the solar opportunity, and so there's just we're with a whole team of people that are looking at innovative approaches and utilization of different tools to assist the workforce. I think we're continuing to identify more of those opportunities. We have an innovative approach that we're looking to bring to market in the not too distant future in terms of just how we go about assembling steel for buildings and actually doing that at grade. And I think when you're maneuvering large large objects that ultimately get placed at higher elevations, you don't necessarily have to have a crane at grade or a high-low to move those around. And mule is, again, I think a unique opportunity for us to facilitate productivity for some of the trades that we're going to be looking to do that type of work.
Sure. I've witnessed this just, in my previous life, right, or prior life in the construction technology space. I have, about a decade of experience there, and it all comes down to user adoption, oftentimes when you're introducing any type of innovations into construction. So I'm curious to see, for those of you, that have now had experience with the mule, what was it like engaging with your field personnel? What was their pushback, and what were maybe some of the best practices that you guys were able to implement to essentially get that rapid adoption and get your field personnel to start actually being advocates for the mule for themselves?
I'll say that there's two paths here. One is sometimes you're dealing with that salty old dog, right? That guy who's never going to change. It's a little bit of machismo and defiance and just the way that we've always done it. And sometimes you're able to turn those guys around. But where the opportunity is and where the future of it is in the attraction and retention of the younger guys. There's not many 19-year-old kids nowadays who are saying, I want to be a Mason, because it's grueling work. So the fact that the innovation and the technology and the opportunity that affords in the attraction and retention of younger Masons, it frankly could save this trade and could save what's really an old world art. I mean, this hasn't changed since the pyramids, right? And now we're doing it a little bit differently. We're using hydromobile lifts, and now we're using mules, and just changing the game.
Yeah. And that's really, there's a labor shortage in construction in general, right? So, we talk about the mule being a tool for all trades. It's not only applicable to Masons. You're looking at even journeymen and, in the electrical space, the HVAC space. It really goes and extends, past Masonry. Tim, what about you guys with best practices on the field to ensure that there's,
we're pretty much in the infancy stage, so we're still just figuring out how to lay block with the mules. I shouldn't say we're figuring out. We have, and we had 4 mules on the site, and now the job site has 8. So it really has taken off. And safe. I guess we touted it as the safety innovation. The folks weren't going home tired at the end of the day was the biggest selling feature right off the bat. And so, I'd say it took off like wildfire immediately. So once it got on site, there wasn't a lot of selling to it. So, but now it's, our next step is to go figure out where else, wall panels, mechanical, on the ground steel assembly, those type of things is our next step. So.
No, that's fantastic. And, when we're talking about adoption and when there is this, I think, Andy, when you call it a salty old dog, well, it is old dog, new tricks, in the fact that oftentimes when we look at process in general, if you go in somewhere and say, why do you guys do it that way? 99% of the time, they're going to say, well, because that's the way we've always done it. And so that's really where innovation comes into play, and multifaceted within the construction industry, from electronic plan management. And now you have, smart lift assist that's taking something that's 150 pounds and making it weigh 2 pounds. You would immediately think, well, why would these guys want to break their back every day and go home fatigued? And you have, owner of a masonry contract or organization, or president of a general contracting firm, have these laborers that are toast after 3 days and they need 3 days of recovery. So it feels like this common sense, but the reality is it's disruptive, and most people don't prefer change. And I think with COVID, to your point, Tim, it's pushing it there because the mule is a perfect solution for social distancing, right? We optimize the process by having 2 men to 1 mule, so that they can, kind of rotate back and forth. So just kind of food for thought there. What does success look like to you, Tyler, when it comes to the mule on the job site, right? Like, what does that look like to you? So we talk a lot about, the productivity gains that you can get from it, reducing the fatigue from, from the labor. What does success look like to you and to Clark?
Yeah, I would say success is having no to very minimal masonry related safety injuries, right? No pinched fingers from getting it caught, no strained backs from picking up the blocks. So I think that's a very measurable indicator there is, 0 safety incidents. And then, I think that there is certainly something to be said about increased productivity, gaining on the schedule, taking something that's critical path and either removing it from the critical path because it gets done so quickly, or just decreasing that duration. So I think once again, it's zero safety incidents related to masonry trades, and it's being able to control and predict the scheduled path, the critical path if masonry is on that, and or be able to remove it and shorten it so much that it just becomes another activity to get done.
On that thought, there are certain GC firms that have actually started to require, once they've recognized our product and the benefit, they're starting to, we're getting inquiries continually that the GC or, the owners group or the developers have actually reached out to them and said, you guys need to have a mule on site or bid with a mule. So do you think we're going to see more and more of that happen as there's additional awareness of the product from the GC side?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're always trying to, as everyone here in the industry, push the envelope and find solutions that are better for our people and better for our projects, and can deliver a more predictable product to our clients. And I absolutely think that this is one of those tools that, I truly think that we'll see our trade partners adopt it probably faster than all the GCs can get behind it and say, yes, we are mandating this on all of our projects. And, as long as we get behind them and support them with any decisions that need to be made from a design perspective, going to 32-inch block from 8-inch block, there's many roadblocks that we can help to remove in order to make the adoption, grow like wildfire. And I think that that's really what will happen is, we're going to support it like we always have, and more masonry contractors will see the benefits, and it'll just take off.
Right. If you have a particular job, let's say that you have a job, which we all know that 32-inch block is coming, right? There's, more distributors and suppliers of 32-inch block around the country. And so we know that that's, we're headed that way, and we don't necessarily know when all this social distancing is over. So coupling that together, the mule is obviously in some regard the only solution. So when you guys are bidding certain projects, let's say that it's a 32-inch mule, would you essentially be not requiring, I'm sorry, I simply asked that question again. Would you actually be essentially more apt to be looking at those that are already placing the mule in the bid versus those that are behind the times?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we obviously have like everyone else does, has a very prescriptive way to vet trade partners before they come on a project, and, giving, extra points for innovation, which really ties to reduction of safety incidents and predictability of schedule and production is very important.
Sure.
So yeah, we absolutely, try to single out those GC or those trade partners, as long as they're competitive in cost, and making sure that we're aligning with them on our projects.
Right. Ryan, have you seen any reduction on project related injuries from using the mule on your job sites? Is that a key factor when you're looking at essentially ROI?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to it's hard to identify the injury that didn't happen, but I mean, it's very easy to understand and get your head wrapped around how that's the case. I mean, I think we're a little bit unique in that we are a general contractor, but we also employ a little over 1,100 of our own trades, and so I think probably our most active utilization has been identifying our own opportunities with our own workforce to make use of the mule, and I think it's certainly, there's no question that it offers a safer way to execute work, but I think it's more again of the innovation opportunity of just where this goes, not just in the here and now, but it's as much just building an understanding of how to make use of a phenomenal tool that will really pay incredible dividends 5-10 years down the road. And as we think back to the evolution of so many different tools that are very, very commonplace today, they looked very different at their inception. And so I think again what's most exciting to me about the mule and where we have opportunity to go with it, I mean, it's a terrific tool today, but what is even more exciting to me is just where it's going to go in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road.
How it really evolves within the industry. Andy, what would you say your team appreciates the most about the mule?
Hard to pick one thing. I think that certainly the innovation is great, but it forces some level of tidiness. The way that you need to stage the work, and the way the work needs to be scaled up. This is bulky, awkward work, and only going to get more bulky and more awkward as people start to understand the capability of the lift assist, right? So the easier you can stage that work, a tidy job site is a safe job site. And I think that just the nature of how people are staging their work to accept the mule makes for a tidier operation, a more efficient operation. So we strive for that on all of our job sites. Certainly our health and safety people like to see it. So I'd say that, and then obviously just time is money, and there's no industry that speaks to that more than ours, and that is in the sense of general conditions. It's in the sense of bonding capacity. It's in the sense of planning around weather. Place like Syracuse or Detroit, for that matter, we always are trying to be buttoned up and working inside by New Year's Day or thereabouts.
Right.
When it seems that it takes longer and longer for these projects to get finalized, whether that be design, whether it be value engineering, whether it be getting to a final guaranteed maximum price or getting the funding finalized, and then they want them done sooner and sooner. So anything that can reduce that timeline, this innovation or otherwise, is going to be roundly accepted and promoted across the industry, I think.
Sure. Now, Tim, this is actually going to be the last question, so everybody's welcome to answer it, and then we're going to go over to the audience and get some Q&A. As I mentioned, I want to make this short and sweet and be mindful of everyone's time on the call. Tim, with your field workers, you talked about going from 4 mules to then 8 mules, which is incredible and definitely a testament to its strength, no pun intended. What is the general feedback you're hearing from the field workers when they're interacting with the mule?
I think Andy hit on it. It's the safety aspect, and just that the job site's cleaner and more organized. Everything has to be planned and set up accordingly to feed the mules, literally. But I did want to go back on Tyler's really quick question, but I guess another advantage I see by general contractors investing in the mules is the ability to work with some of our minority or smaller women-owned businesses and what have you, and partnering with them, because on some of the larger jobs, they necessarily wouldn't have the opportunity to bid because they don't have the availability of craft or what have you, where the mule now suddenly opens up that door with the lesser craft count. So anyhow, I did want to add on Tyler's comment earlier too, that there's an added benefit there as well. So
yes, I actually love that you mentioned that, because we had one of the attendees earlier say, let's make all of our language gender inclusive, because there's women out here too, and we're listening. So it is true. And these are the types of product that really bring that more and more into the space and into the industry. And that's something we all have to be really mindful of, because I know we are all on that team when it comes to inclusion and diversification within the workspace. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So now we're going to go ahead and turn it to our audience. We do already have a few questions. For those of you that have not entered your questions in, go ahead and feel free to do so. If you have a specific question for whether it's Clark, Barton Malow, Huber Brewer, or Skanska, or construction robotics, feel free to specify. If not, then I will just kind of throw it out there, and then you guys can fight for it. So this one, actually, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Scott. Scott, are you on the line?
Yep, I'm here.
Fantastic. So Sebastian says, introducing new technologies to the workforce brings new challenges, but also opportunities. What about maintenance of the mule? How does it break down repairs, spare parts, and people who are able to repair the mule? So,
yeah, that's a great question. I think that maintenance is fairly minimal on the mule. It's a fairly straightforward piece of equipment to learn and to maintain. We do have a distribution network around the country, and we also provide service techs for both implementation, but also maintenance and repairs. But in general, for the most part, pretty easy pieces of equipment to maintain. There's not a whole lot of daily interaction. You plug in, you fire them up, they're up and running within a minute or so, and at the end of the day, you shut them down and go home. So pretty simple but highly effective pieces of equipment.
Yep. Love that. All right. We have another one, and this is for anyone that would like to answer it. It says, is cobotics the generally accepted jargon within the industry? Actually, I think I'll take this one. Within the industry regarding the mule and accessories. We essentially released cobotics alongside JLG this year at ConExpo 2020. Scott, am I accurate in saying that? That it's an existing term, but it's pretty new to market.
Sure, and I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
Yes. So, and the reason behind cobotics, for those that are on the call, is really that it takes a man and a mule. So it's a cobot. It's, it takes two to tango. So therefore, it's not just on the robotics side. Okay, great. Let's see what else we have here. I'm not going to take too many more because we're almost right at time. We did already answer what was the driving force behind purchasing the mule. This could be one. I know that metrics, as we talked about, how do you really look at an ROI, because some of the metrics that you're looking at are not just on the productivity, but actually having, the laborers out there not breaking their backs. Have any of you guys calculated ROI to date, or you just kind of know it's there and it's the juice is worth the squeeze? Or are you in the process?
I think it's perhaps a different equation at the GC level than it is at the Mason level. In a lot of ways, you almost hope that you can validate it even as a break even for the Mason because of those benefits in terms of safety and in terms of wear and tear on the employee, on the Mason. But from our collective perspective, I know that, again, time is money. So it's, can you improve on the schedule? Can you improve on the job site productivity, the job site tidiness, all those things?
Right.
So maybe not as tangible an ROI, but not unlike modularizing any sort of product, it definitely comes out in the wash.
Yep. I know, we internally have an ROI calculator as well, so we will assist on those calculations. I just wasn't sure for your specific organizations. We have another one. It says, how is the unit secured on the job site? And how do you prevent theft? Scott, do you want to hop in on that one?
Sure. I mean, I think that typically, obviously it's job site to job site dependent. I think some contractors will take the controller, and the gripper off the mule, which is really the easy thing that could walk at the end of day. But for the most part, that's not necessary unless they're concerned from a safety standpoint. If they do want to do that, it's pretty easy to pop off and pop on. Other than that, it's a pretty big, heavy piece of equipment. So wouldn't be super easy to walk off on its own.
And I'll kind of go on that one as well. We do have some, specific flip books that you can look at the varying ways that you can mount the mule and work with the mule on the job site. And we do have an implementation team in-house that tailors the setup to the mule to optimize your productivity for that particular site. So it is very project specific when we release the mule to the project site. And then this is going to be the last question for the day, and then we're going to call it a wrap. It says, what is the estimated training window for employees, and how much time is in the masonry work planning did the mule program take at the site as opposed to doing the usual masonry setup?
I was going to jump in and answer that for you because we just went through that. We had a technician for about 3 days, and I think it was probably overkill, but because we were brand new to it and never had used it before, we brought a technician for 3 days on site, and that was plenty to handle that. And the maintenance has been handled after hours, if you will. So,
right. So probably the most time consuming part is the logistics and like on the front end, not the delivery of the mule training.
Yeah, no, it was just everybody learning what it was and how to utilize it and how to set it up. And once we got going, now it's, they move it around and move it up on their own. So. Right.
Yeah. So typically, for those of you that aren't as familiar with the product, the mule takes between 15 and 20 minutes to move, and set it up once you're moving it. So once you've done it a few times and you get in the groove, it's not very time consuming. And then the attachments really just pop off and pop on. So it is a very noble project. All right, guys. Well, that goes ahead, and we will call that a day for now. Looks like we had over 70 attendees live today, and then we will also go ahead and post this recording, as I mentioned, on YouTube for you guys to watch it after the fact. Thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it, and we will all be in touch.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thanks.